I'm Lane Harrison.
And I'm Claire Henry.
Thanks for tuning in to The Signal. This is Bulletins from the Coast.
Today we have stories from all over the Maritimes, from surfing to the circus.
Several businesses in Nova Scotia had to close their doors after the provincial lockdown in March 2020. Joe Thompson spoke with business owners and operators here in Halifax to see how they've kept their doors open over the past year.
When I was in Blue Collar Barbershop a year ago, it was full of people patiently waiting to get their haircut and barbers chatting with their clients. Well, a lot has changed in the last year. With reduced capacity and people being forced to wait outside, the shop has lost some of what made it a great place to get your haircut.
Stu Cochrane is the owner and operator of Blue Collared Barbershop in Halifax, Nova Scotia. When the COVID-19 pandemic began this time last year, he knew he needed to make some changes if he wanted to stay afloat.
Like, I renovated my shop, so now it's perfectly laid out for social distancing. There's tons of room, easier to clean surfaces. I doubled up my usual stock for my inventory for selling hair products.
In another part of town, Marj Torrens is a senior stylist at a high-end clothing store. She says her clients' needs have evolved with the pandemic.
They're all sitting in their homes on Zoom, so that need is gone, which is weird. Like, you're not doing the events anymore, you don't have that kind of business. But on the other hand, other people's needs have changed. All the snowbirds have had to stay put. People need color for their Zoom calls. People have changed their physique during this. And some people have just really embraced being into the leisure vibe. So it's changed a lot. Thankfully, people still have needs.
Stu Cochrane still has a need to interact with the clients in his barbershop. While he understands that there are rules in place to protect everybody's safety, he still misses the daily banter with his clients.
Barbering is a very social thing. I'm not normally a very social person, but I go to work and I thrive in there. So it's like, I'm definitely looking forward to firing it back up again to full speed.
For some businesses, it hasn't been as difficult a time as it has been for others, but it definitely has been different. For The Signal, I'm Joe Thompson.
Thanks, Joe. It's encouraging to see that even in a pandemic, some local businesses are still able to thrive.
Now we're going to hear from my co-host Lane. He set out to find out how auction houses are staying afloat during the pandemic. He found that most bidders are now going online.
When the pandemic struck, the crowds disappeared, and Trish Giles of Wood & Rose Auctions thought her business would too.
There was a little panic. It was, what's going to happen now? What do we do? We can't have large crowds. That's what we do. Once a month on a Sunday, 400 to 500 people fill the room, fill the hall. What are we going to do now?
The solution was to sell everything from antique chairs to radios to statues online.
We had to purchase a new program, and I had to learn a new program all over again. And, it's a different world online. You realize that you have to be very specific with your measurements, with your photos. It's still time consuming, but it's been nice because it's given us a little bit of a normal life too, and a place to call home. Like we have a space now.
While the pandemic forced Giles to take her business online, other auction houses in Nova Scotia had already been anticipating a digital future in their industry. According to Mariner Auctions president Dustin Barker, whose company began conducting auctions online 9 years ago.
And it turned out where we were already set. We had a strong online presence. We're basically an online business here. That we were able to continue to operate in a way that kept everybody safe and kept our customers safe. So, we didn't really see a slowdown, which was great. In fact, in other cases, we maybe seen an uptick in business.
Barker remembers when he first started to see his inventory differently.
I can remember sitting on the couch, maybe around 9 years ago with my wife, and, we're thinking, what are we going to do for Christmas for the kids? And started browsing stores and purchasing online, and that was quite a long time ago. And at that point I was like, okay, well, if we don't make the move to move that way, we're going to get left in the dust.
After experiencing an uptick in sales during the pandemic, Wood & Rose Auctions will likely remain mostly online.
People ask us whether we're going to go back to the in-person auctions or whether we'll continue online. I think you're going to see us continue online for the majority of what we do. But I think that it's not going to hurt anything, and I think we'd enjoy it to do the odd live auction now and then.
While many businesses look forward to a time when they no longer have to operate online, it appears the auction house has found a new home in Nova Scotia.
Thanks, Lane.
As we just learned, over the past year, the COVID-19 pandemic has created many challenges that Haligonians had never faced before. But the pandemic has also caused many in the city to discover a new place of comfort. Marianne McClarty has more.
Spring weather brings with it a renewed optimism for many here in downtown Halifax. But Statistics Canada says Canadians between the ages 15 and 25 since the start of the pandemic are least likely to report good mental health. That's due to sudden shifts to online learning, unstable employment, and social isolation. We've also heard that some have found comfort in yoga, baking, long walks in the park, but there are some students seeking it in more unusual places. Linda Derrick has been reading tarot cards for over 30 years. She says she has never seen it as popular as it is right now, specifically with teenagers. Derrick declined an on-camera interview, but this is what she had to say.
We've been so isolated, and the normal things that give us comfort, we're not finding. Coming in and having your cards read, and having it actually resonate. It gives something to hang on to, especially when we're living in a void.
Olivia Makowski and McKenna Mann, first-year students at Dalhousie University, just finished their first tarot reading session with Derrick.
I don't know how to explain it, but it was like what I wanted to hear, but not exactly what I wanted to hear, so it was like a sense of comfort, but like a sense of honesty at the same time. Yeah, it was like a piece of an overall thing that I wanted to actually figure out or understand.
Yeah, downstairs in the main shop, Pamela McInnis rearranges her books of spells, waiting for her customers. Her small boutique is full of potions, healing stones, and crystals. She says since reopening post-lockdown, business has doubled, and most of her customers are under the age of 25.
In times like this, we feel kind of powerless, I think, and this kind of spiritual path is very empowering for a person, so you feel like you are doing things to help yourself and others, that gives you a little bit more control in a situation that is not controlled.
Both women hope their clients leave with a better sense of control and well-being as they head back into another month of unknowns. For The Signal, I'm Marianne McClarty.
Thanks, Marianne. As unexpected as it may be, it's definitely not the most unusual thing to happen this year.
The COVID-19 pandemic probably doesn't have many people thinking about the circus, but that is exactly what they are thinking about at Halifax Circus. Adam Innes spoke to Mike Hirschbach about the healing power of performance.
A year into the coronavirus pandemic, a bustling crowd enjoying itself on a night out is impossible. Yet, performers are still rehearsing and taking lessons at the Halifax Circus. In their gymnasium, where colorful ribbons dangle over carefully sanitized tumbling mats, people learn aerials, acrobatics, and juggling. Despite the pandemic, classes are fully booked.
You know, we're always looking for silver linings. Is there anything good that came out of this situation? After all these years, we have a strong team of teachers who really excel at their craft, are very skillful, and love to teach.
Hirschbach says performance is important, especially during difficult times. Almost 20 years ago now, he performed in the wake of a different tragedy that rocked the world.
So in 2001 to 2003, I was a performer on tour with the Cirque du Soleil. So we were in Boston on 9/11. And one of the planes that hit the Trade Center left from Boston. I remember very, very clearly walking down the street that morning, and there were cars pulled over to the side of the road, and people just had their radio on. They had their car doors open so everybody could hear, right? Because people, they had to pull over. They were just in shock. The headquarters of the Cirque du Soleil sent a message out to all the shows that were performing. Each show will make a choice as to whether they want to perform tonight or not. So there was a conversation that was going that whole day, which was, do we perform? Is it right to perform on a day like today? Is this, or do we join in the mourning? Is it proper to perform in a time like this?
In the end, Cirque du Soleil went on that night, despite the somber atmosphere.
Performance isn't just about entertaining people. It's not just about providing them with some kind of visual spectacle. What a performance does at its best is it takes people out of their lives, takes them somewhere else for a certain amount of time, and hopefully has some kind of impact on them even afterwards, which is that they walk out feeling better.
Thanks, Adam. It's interesting to see all the different things that people are doing to get them through this pandemic.
During the pandemic, the social media app TikTok has soared in popularity, with low case numbers in the province, businesses reopening, and travel restrictions keeping people within Nova Scotia. A new trend has emerged among Halifax TikTok users. Kaya Usinoya has the story.
I'm here at the very photogenic waterfront here in Halifax with a story about TikTok vloggers or video bloggers who make videos about their daily lives in the city. As we both know, Haligonians are enjoying a lot of freedoms many Canadians and other provinces don't have right now. Starting last fall, I noticed a lot more of these TikToks, with even entire accounts dedicated to Halifax vlogs.
Hey guys, back at it again with another highly requested vlog that nobody actually requested, but here we go.
Will Oliver makes TikTok videos about his life in Halifax, highlighting his favorite local spots along the way. He never thought his vlogs would get noticed by a large audience, but when his first vlog got attention, he knew he had to make more. Oliver has more than 3,000 followers.
I think it's really important to value the places where you're living, and I think it's really easy to lose sight of when you can get up and go anywhere you want. But right now, when everyone's more confined to one area, I think it's allowed a lot of people to really appreciate what's around them. So I think it's definitely contributed to the trend of vlogging in Halifax and making Halifax TikToks, because everyone wants to appreciate the space we have here and the luxury of being able to go to these restaurants and doing fun things and not just having to stay home.
Oliver is from St. John, New Brunswick, and moved to Halifax 3 years ago. Initially, he had his sights set on moving to a larger city, but now he's considering settling down in Halifax. He says a city is what you make it.
It's not in LA or a Toronto or a Montreal, but we do have a lot of really special spots and things that are really fun around us that I think people take for granted because they're so focused on getting out and moving to a bigger city, as I once was.
Oliver, like many other Halifax TikTok vloggers, includes his favorite local restaurants and retailers in his videos. As it turns out, a local business noticed some TikTok-related traffic. Drew VOEGELI owns the Cheeky Neighbour Diner, a local Halifax business that opened just a few months before the pandemic hit. He said that the social media app has definitely brought a couple of people into his diner.
There was like a week where quite a few people had come in and said, I saw it on TikTok. And even there was a group, I remember, because I was serving at the time, and they didn't even look at the menu, just like 4 people all got chicken waffles. It was hilarious. And then I asked them, because it's like pretty rare to have someone not even look at a menu. And they said they had seen it on TikTok.
Whatever's behind this TikTok trend, it's given me some ideas for places to check out around Halifax, and it's definitely sold some chicken waffles.
For The Signal, I'm Kaya Usinoya.
I definitely recognize a few of them from my For You page. While COVID-19 has drastically changed life for humans, the pandemic has also reached our pets. Hannah Bing and Carly McKenzie have more.
I'm Carly McKenzie, standing outside the home of JOCELYN Leon and her dog Oliver. Oliver is one of the many pets feeling the effects of this pandemic. Oliver may look like a cute, well-adjusted Yorkie poo, but while he waits for his owner to return home from work, he pees on everything. Oliver was just 6 months old when the COVID-19 pandemic started. Leon was home for 3 months. When she went back to work, she noticed a change in her well-trained dog's behavior.
It's more so now because we spend so much time at home. He's not used to us leaving. So now when we leave, he kind of freaks out a little bit. And since he's been peeing on all the carpets, we put him in his pen, which kind of makes him more anxious.
Former vet technician Janelle McKay says separation anxiety almost always ends in destruction. New toys, carpets, socks, and pillows peed on and destroyed. Leon says he's only had this one for about a week.
There was a nose and a mouth here.
Leon also says that Oliver shakes and shivers when he's not cold and whimpers for no reason. A shut door or checking the mail can trigger this behavior. And when he's not being destructive, Leon says he seems depressed.
He'll just kind of sleep by the window at the door and just kind of wait for us to get home.
And even while talking to me, Oliver needed to be comforted. But pet owners aren't the only ones noticing the problem. Hannah Bing has the rest.
I'm Hannah Bing outside of Dogtopia Dog Daycare, and here we can see the aftermath of what the pandemic can do to some of our pets.
Sullivan works at Dogtopia. She sees firsthand the effects from the pandemic on the pets who come to her.
There's definitely a lot more aggressive behavior. Also, they're being very needy physically with the coaches in the room and territorial over us because they are used to having so much physical attention from a human and they're not used to it, so they'll fight for that time with us, which leads to unsafe circumstances in the rooms.
Sullivan says the social anxiety can be attributed to hectic environment changes, but there are ways to reduce them.
Owners making sure that they're providing a right balance between consistent environments and also new environments for the dogs to get accustomed to, and then proper training protocols for their dogs so that they reduce the amount of those behaviors that they show.
She said some pets may just need more time and work, but through proper communication and socialization, you can get your happy pet back. I'm Hannah Bing for the Signal in Halifax.
And I'm Carly McKenzie.
Thanks, Hannah and Carly. It's interesting to hear that humans aren't the only ones adjusting to a new normal.
On top of our four-legged friends suffering from separation anxiety, they've also been losing their jobs. Guide dogs have been suffering from a lack of work and training due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Haley Dilno-Reed is here to tell us more.
Claire, I heard about a woman who uses a seeing eye dog because she's blind. She said she had to retire her guide dog because she could not work him enough during the pandemic. That got me thinking, and I gave a call to Daily SHELLEN. She is an optician who has been working with people who have severe visual impairment and a particular interest in people who rely on guide dogs. She's noticed that since the majority of the population has chosen to stay in their homes, it is providing less working opportunities for service dogs, especially seeing eye dogs.
When a guide dog is not working every day, then they are losing their skills as well.
These dogs live to serve. Taking the challenge out of a service dog's life can have detrimental effects on their mental health. Sometimes handlers have to choose whether the dog remains working or retires into a regular pet. If that happens, a new dog has to be trained, and that can take 2 years. And on top of that, a national training facility is closed due to COVID-19.
So part of the other issues is that, of course, the training center in Ottawa has had to be closed. So those dogs that were in training are now stalled in their training and will have to start again, more from almost their fostering stage.
Kimber Weber is a volunteer for a nonprofit organization called Canine Pad. She trains service dogs for people around Nova Scotia, dogs that support people who have conditions like autism or PTSD. She believes COVID-19 has taken a toll on their service dogs too.
Some dogs, like in the pandemic, decide they don't want to work anymore. And we don't want to ever force the dog to be working.
In spite of the challenges, Weber says her group is adapting training and hopes to meet ongoing demands.
This year it looks like we're going to be able to get our charity status and really look at growing the organization.
So COVID-19 will be affecting the training and provision of service dogs and guide dogs, even after the virus is under control. For The Signal, I'm Haley Dolnart-Reed.
Thanks, Haley. Healthcare providers come in many different forms, but one thing they all have in common is that they're the heroes of this pandemic.
Next, we're hearing from Michael Beals. He checked in with a healthcare instructor and an elder in the community of Beachville to see how the pandemic has affected their lives.
As a nurse for 22 years, Lynn Millward speaks about the pressures during COVID-19.
So the pressures are when it's not like fixing a car. Everything we do affects that patient somehow. And if we don't get it right, that patient could die. And when we do get it right, then we just feel so proud that we were a part of them getting better and them getting discharged from the hospital. But it's not always that way, and that's part of the job as well, is that people die. And you got to be there just to hold their hand. And that probably is sitting there with the family and trying to be supportive to them during that time in their life is probably one of the hardest things that we have to do.
Millward is now teaching a variety of frontline workers.
People that provide patient care in a variety of different ways, from housekeeping right up to porter services to pharmacists and physiotherapists. We all work as a team to provide that patient with a holistic approach, and their family members as well.
Faye Williams is one of the elders of the Beachville community. She relaxes in her favorite lazy boy chair. And at one point, Faye said she was fearful of COVID-19.
First heard about it, a feeling of fear came over me because I thought, and the government came in and they started telling about the things that were happening in their part of the world, and that was it. I was really nervous for a while, but then I just trusted in the Lord. And well, He brought us this far, and we haven't had anything yet, because you never know when something might turn up. If one of us get that germ, and then we pass it along to everybody where we go, feel pretty bad about it. And as for the government, I think they did quite a bit for people. Well, some of the people, I'll say. Because I'm a senior citizen, and they haven't done too much for our group of people.
Lynn Millward and Faye Williams will soon have their vaccines. Like most people, Faye Williams and Lynn Millward will be happy when COVID-19 is a distant memory.
Thanks, Michael. Glad to hear they'll both be vaccinated soon.
For many, the past year has been one full of isolation, away from friends and family. Hannah Bryanton spoke to a new mother about her experience of delivering a baby during a pandemic and how isolation affected that experience.
I'm Hannah Bryanton in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. I'm here at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where Katie Walters gave birth to her second child in the midst of a province-wide lockdown. This is Walter's baby, Adeline. She is a happy and healthy baby at 4 months old. Back in December 2020, Walters woke up feeling very ill. As an expectant mother, her first thought was that she was going into labor. When she called the hospital, their first thought was that she had COVID.
They asked me if I had any of the following symptoms, and I had fevers and chill, and I was throwing up. They then told me I had to get a COVID test, and my husband actually had to leave me and go back to the car.
Wolters was told her test would be back within the hour. During this time, she was completely isolated in a room without her husband. 2 hours later, once her labor started progressing, the nurses allowed Wolters' husband to come back in for support.
So throughout this whole process, I had to wear a mask. And normally you don't have to wear a mask while laboring, so that was difficult to do. I was not allowed to leave the room. We weren't allowed to have visitors. And my husband, though, he was the only one allowed to come and go.
I spoke with Kim Taylor, a nurse from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. She said the pandemic has caused many challenges in the hospital, including visitation protocols.
Before, pretty much anybody could come and visit their loved ones when they had their new baby, but once COVID hit and they had all of the isolation protocols in place, it turned out that only husbands could come and visit their wives and meet the new baby. So it really isolated families and took away I would say, the joy and excitement of a new baby being born and coming into a family.
Wolters was disappointed with Adeline's delivery, but regardless, she is anxious for the opening of the Atlantic bubble so that Adeline can meet her extended family. For The Signal, I'm Hannah Bryanton.
Thanks, Hannah. Next, we'll be checking in with some Halifax-based students about their experience with online university.
When classes went online, some students decided to go offline and take time off school. But Joshua Neudfeld found that post-secondary institutions in the province have actually seen an uptick in enrollment over the pandemic.
I'm Josh Neufeld, reporting live from Dalhousie campus. It's quiet here right now, but just over a year ago, this area was teeming with students traveling from class to class, including second-year computer science student Alex Carter. Now, Carter works in a kitchen.
I think it was just general stress levels with the introduction of online classes is what kind of pushed me away from wanting to continue with the online school.
According to Carter, he's been working at a cafe since October and is considering changing his computer science degree at Dalhousie to a culinary degree at Nova Scotia Community College.
My love for baking kind of led me towards finding a job that was more cooking oriented, and I found that the job I have now is something that I really love and I want to continue doing that.
Although Carter's decision might suggest that university enrollment numbers in Atlantic Canada are on the decline, reports from the Association of Atlantic Universities reveal that the opposite is true. Peter Halpin, the association's executive director, said that more provincial and part-time students have been enrolling.
Applications appear to be up, year over year, which is a really good sign. We know that students are anxious to get back on campus.
For some, the switch online has proved useful. According to Donna Kennedy, an administrator at Nova Scotia Community College, the transition to online learning was not only smooth, but well received.
If anything, I think we found that we had a number of students who preferred online. So we probably got a little influx of newer applicants who decided that online would actually suit their learning.
What Kennedy won't say is whether or not their overall numbers are up. Second-year Dalhousie student Ellis Lacroix really likes the convenience of online learning.
It's really easy to just get out of bed and either start my work or just start school. It's also pretty nice because I get a lot more time to work on projects which I normally wouldn't be able to do when I'm actually at campus.
For The Signal, I'm Josh Neufeld.
Thanks, Joshua. It'll be interesting to see how everyone adapts once classes are in person again.
In other news, there is a hardy community of female cold water surfers here in Nova Scotia who made waves this past fall. Will McLernan drove out to the coast to speak with them about it.
Hey, Lane and Claire. I'm out here on Nova Scotia's eastern shore. It's currently like 5 degrees outside, but ocean temperatures are just hovering above zero. I'm out here with Shelby Lendrum, a Dartmouth native who surfs all winter long. So when Surfline posted an article saying that you should leave the girlfriends at home, she was obviously very upset.
Shelby Lendrum's life revolves around the surf. She's turned down jobs, moved homes, and sacrificed sleep just to spend more time in the ocean. It could be negative 20 degrees outside. She'll toss on her hooded wetsuit, slap on the booties, and trek down some slippery rocks to go shred some waves. So this past fall, she was irate when she was notified that popular international surf website Surfline posted an article about surfing in Nova Scotia stating that when it comes to winter surfing, you should leave the girlfriend at home.
To imply to leave us at home, well, that doesn't sit well with us at all. We work really hard to hold our place in the lineup all year round, and especially in the winter, because that's our best season.
The line was removed after an email was sent pointing out the comment was sexist and untrue. But Lendrum believed more had to be done in holding them accountable. So she began posting photos of her surfing in frigid temperatures and asked her friend Jillian Morris, who's a coordinator at the Surf Association of Nova Scotia, to get support, which led to a bombardment of photos tagging Surfline in hundreds of stories showcasing women surfing 23 weeks pregnant, trudging through the snow, and ripping massive waves.
Showing like the women, I guess, essentially leaving their boyfriends or leaving their partners at home and like surfing on their own and like doing an awesome job of it and having a great time. I think it really showed Surfline that no, we're not going to stay home, and especially Nova Scotia where it's probably equal out in the water.
Morris says Surfline has been doing a better job in providing more female representation in their social media since the controversy, but believes they still have work to do. The Surf Association pitched a couple of stories concerning diversity in the province's surf community, but none were accepted. Surfline refused to comment through email at this time.
There's a strong community of female Nova Scotian surfers who surf all winter long, and they want surf media to take notice. For The Signal, I'm Will McClernand.
Thanks, Will. Nova Scotia is Canada's ocean playground for a reason. Darcy Neal took the plunge to bring us our next story about the Sea Foxes, the province's first all-female diving group.
I'm Darcy Neal, and I'm here at Fox Point Beach in Hubbard's, Nova Scotia. I'm going to tell you about the new crew in town at this well-known dive training site.
They call themselves the Sea Foxes, and they are the province's first all-female dive group. This community of women is diverse in age and diving experience. Founder April Wickert says that the group, which started in 2019, has been attracting more divers each year. With weight belts, lots of thick layers, and 35-pound tanks, getting ready can be half the battle. Once suited up members pair off. With their dive buddies, it's time to head out into the 2-degree water. Before the Sea Foxes, few women showed up for group dives. Wickert says having an all-female crew gets more certified female divers out diving.
We would certify lots of girls on our courses, but then we never saw them really dive again. And I think part of the reason that it did catch on so quickly and it grew so big was just because there literally was a need for it. There was nothing like it before, and now it exists, and everybody's really happy to come out.
After about a 45-minute dive, the Sea Foxes come out of the ocean with mask marks rimming their eyes and big smiles. Going beneath the surface with an all-female crew has its perks. As a member of the Sea Foxes, Stacey Moser knows that some women face challenges in the gearing up and gearing down process. In a mixed group of divers, sometimes you have to ask for help.
I find all of the groups are really supportive, regardless if it's mixed. But with the women, we understand the challenges that each of us has. When you're diving with men, they'll go one of two ways. They'll either assume that you always need help and that you can't do it, or they forget that you might need help. Where with women, we look out for each other, I think, a little bit more.
The Sea Foxes group is making diving more inclusive. April Wickert hopes that more females will join the tight-knit Nova Scotia dive community.
For The Signal, I'm Darcy Neal.
Thanks, Darcy. I think there might be some new interest in the Sea Foxes after seeing that incredible footage.
That's all from us. We hope you enjoyed our stories about coping with the pandemic, furry friends, and women being excellent on the ocean.
We can't wait to ditch the Zoom interviews, get back on campus, and bring you even more stories next year.
With The Signal, Bulletins from the Coast, I'm Claire Henry.
And I'm Lane Harrison. We'll see you next year. Hopefully, we won't be 6 feet apart by then.